right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Another Bourbon Show. Tonight, we're going to be drinking another bottle provided by our good friend, Steven.
Wasn't sure what you were going to say there, but I'm pleased.
Yeah.
It's just good friend.
You gave me bourbon. I'm not going to talk trash about you then. That's the reason I talk trash about Ryan all the time. He never provides anything.
Okay, I was going to say, is that the secret? Because I feel like a lot of people could have spared themselves a lot of misery just by giving you a bottle of bourbon in the past.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Steven, tell us about Middle West.
Yeah, so tonight we're drinking Middle West Spirits offering called Straight Wheat Whiskey. This is their straight wheat offering. And I know it's a little difficult to kind of see here. I'll probably put up a picture on the edit. I'll put up a picture of the bottle here so you can see it. But it's a nice looking bottle overall. We'll get into that label in just a second. But this is what they say about it on the website. They say that it's aged a minimum of 3 years in fresh white American oak, which is important because it is Ohio made white American oak to go with this Ohio whiskey. That's where Middle West is from. And what makes it unique is that they actually use soft red winter wheat to emphasize the regional flavor, they say. So this is Ohio through and through, from the barrel to the wheat that they use. Like I said, it's aged a minimum of 3 years in that fresh white American oak. And it is 46% alcohol by volume, or 92 proof. And this is batch number 64. So that basically, the way I came across this bottle was a friend of mine was passing through Ohio. He stopped at a liquor store just to see what he could see for me, and he came across this bottle. And after talking with the liquor store owner, and he was telling him, this is a pretty good Ohio exclusive, or not exclusive, but Ohio local, distillery, and he should check them out. And so he grabbed a bottle for me. And then after I started looking into them a little bit, it seemed like, it wasn't just another, random sourced, who knows what you're going to get kind of thing, or maybe you've even had the juice before kind of thing. It seemed like people were actually liking their stuff, and it seemed like they were trying to do something unique, which gets me into the bottle and the label, because I think that the bottle to me almost looks like, the bottle itself almost looks like a Peerless product, maybe. I'm trying to think of what else I could compare it to. It's like, it doesn't have all like the ribs on the side of it or whatever, like Peerless does, but it has that overall sort of like canister look. And then there's like, it almost looks like a Yankee Candle container or something like that, with a little more at the above and below. Mm-hmm. But you've got this nice label on the front that, while I wouldn't say it's groundbreaking, it just looks nice. I'm not a huge fan of this like tombstone kind of look that they've got here, but I have noticed that this outer band that they have around this kind of tombstone design, that kind of differentiates it on the shelf, and the different colors that they have out here will tell you what that is from a distance. So I think that gives it a leg up. The straight wheat whiskey is gold on the outside, but if you got like their straight rye or something like that, I think it's like a more of an amber color, something like that. So that's how they differentiate them. And I don't know what it is with trees, but I feel like distilleries a lot of times will use trees. I don't know why that's symbolic. I'm sure there's a reason why this matters for Middle West, or why it matters for Ohio. And I look really dumb by saying this, but I just think it looks more like something you'd see on like an Ohio whiskey or something. I don't know. On Oregon, I mean, not an Ohio whiskey. I think it'd be more something you saw in an Oregon whiskey. I don't know exactly.
Buckeye Tree, maybe?
It probably is a Buckeye Tree, but is that really what people think of when they think of Ohio? I guess it is because of the Buckeyes, but anyway, I think that it looks good. I'm going to be giving it a 7 out of 10, because I think overall they've done a lot with the presentation. They obviously care about it. Thought went into this. And I think it looks nice, if not into that upper echelon,
Yeah.
So reminds me a lot of the Hudson bourbon bottles.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
I said Yankee Candle, but in the bourbon world.
It's very similar glass, very similar size.
and I looked them up, and they are located in Columbus, Ohio. That's their like where they're actually located at. So I'm gonna guess that that is a Buckeye tree, with like Ohio State being right there. Probably a connection, I would guess. I don't. Fuck, I don't know.
It is kind of cool that they show the tree, like half of the tree is full, the other half is just like, the winter version of the tree, but it's not just a tree. I should say that. It's kind of like Brothers Bond. Like Brothers Bond had a tree on it, but it wasn't just a tree.
Yeah. I want to look up. I don't know what a Buckeye tree looks like.
They're just going to show this Middle West Spirits logo.
Oh, that is 100% a Buckeye tree. 100%.
Is Urban Meyer groping it or something? Is that how you know?
No, not this time. It's not a drunk blonde at a bar.
What was the name of the guy? Man, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember. What's the name of the guy who got Maurice Claret? Was that his name?
Yeah, did he kill somebody?
Yeah, he was a running back who's like all-world running back. People thought was going to be like the next Emmitt Smith at the time. They were like comparing him to Emmitt Smith, and then he played for like one season for like the Broncos, and then I think maybe he killed somebody, and that was it.
It was something like college.
That, right? I don't remember.
Because didn't he have didn't he get injured pretty bad and then came back and had like a great season? And they beat did they beat Miami? Is that who they beat?
I can't remember. I was just thinking, Middle West Spirits maybe by some chance turned on to this episode, and they are listening
Fuck,
to
are they
it.
gonna regret that?
Well, this is why you don't put a fucking tree on your label, because next thing you know, people are talking about whether or not Saquon Barkley's a bust or not.
All because of that goddamn tree.
What if that's how every episode just devolved on fantasy players who've wronged us over the years?
That's a good name for a podcast right there.
That actually is a really good. Okay, so this is the last ever episode of Another Bourbon Show. We'll see you next week for fantasy football drafts of the past. Well, what do you say we actually give the spirit a try?
Wait, we're drinking something?
Yeah. Have you had this? Have you already had it, Stephen? Tried it out?
Yep, I am. I'm about midway through, a little over midway through, maybe, of the bottle.
I love that amber color, man.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
It's a great color.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
They call it red winter wheat. That went into it. I don't know how much, if that affected the initial color, but other than that, it's fresh white American oak, I guess. And this is aged a minimum of 3 years, they say. So I don't know exactly how old everything is in this, but I feel like this is great color for what is probably not aged all that long, and for what's only 92 proof.
So last week, so this is a small craft distillery, and I'm actually going to do a callback to last week's episode, and it actually made it into the on-air episode where I talked about Connor asked us about the 7 times distilling, and I gave the example of the barrel sizes. I'm guessing that this was aged in a smaller barrel, that it wasn't aged in a 53-gallon barrel. And with it being in a smaller barrel, there's more contact. The whiskey has more contact with the oak itself, so it pulls flavors in and colors in faster than if it was in a 53-gallon barrel. There's a good chance that that's the case in how it got dark so much faster.
That makes sense.
And this has got a killer nose.
Yeah, I think it has a really nice nose. I agree. A lot of oak.
It's almost kind of buttery too, but in like a decadent type way, not like in a gross like Chardonnay type buttery.
No, it reminds me of like a Maker's 46 nose, but a little bit sweeter, I think.
Yeah.
Is that like, am I getting raisin?
could see that.
I smell some like almost like charcoal or like ash a little bit as well, like almost like a campfire.
It's
It
definitely like
reminds. Oh, go ahead.
fruity, like just like trying to get that fruit, but it's like a, I don't know, like a kind of dances around your nose, like it's fruity, like in a good way. Like I don't, maybe like a stone fruit type. It's just, I don't know. It's good. It's like it smells really sweet and buttery.
It reminds me of a couple different double oaked or toasted barreled noses. Like the nose on the Michter's toasted rye reminds me of that. Reminds me a little bit of Woodford double oaked. I don't think it's double oaked. It's not double oaked, right?
Doesn't say that. No.
Okay, but the nose definitely reminds me of that. Anyway, I'm gonna sip it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, I like the nose better than I like the palate. Not that the palate's bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't have a good palate, but that nose set me up for something different than what I tasted.
Yeah, me too. Like I was expecting that full nose to taste, and then it was completely different. Not a lot, like it was very light. I thought I was expecting a little more, kick.
Yeah. So for Steve and Ryan and any listeners, all four of y'all, I'm not saying that I don't like the palate. I'm saying that you're gonna have to give me a second because the palate is so much different than what I expected that it's gonna take me another sip or two to really like parse it out.
I think what's unique about this one to me, and the time I've spent with it so far, is that the hug is really good.
Yeah.
It's really pronounced, and it feels really full-bodied for 92 proof. For the flavor, so I guess the things that hit you first are amazing nose, very powerful nose. Then you have this immediate warmth and then good finish throughout. But while you're experiencing all those pretty strong things, you have a very vapid taste kind of. So it's almost like you have, all these whiskeys that we're comparing it to. You could compare it to from the nose and from the finish, but then on the palate, the closest comparison is like a Jim Beam product. Maybe it feels really light.
And it's again, I'm still not saying that I don't like the palate, but it's almost got like a bitterness to it. And again, I don't mean a bitterness like straight bitters. I don't mean a bitterness like Jepson's Malort. I don't mean a bitterness like a Campari. But it's got a bitter tinge to it, if I will. And no sweetness on the palate.
I do pick up just a little bit of sweetness if I take a little more time and leave it in my mouth a little bit longer. And one of the tasting notes they have, I do agree with a little bit, in that they say baklava, which I think is a weird one. But I think the sweetness I would almost compare to a baklava. I can kind of see that one.
As soon as I tasted it, I thought cloves. That's all I got.
I can see cloves.
Yeah. I
was
like
cloves.
It's like I'm back in college smoking a black clove cigarette.
I can give their tasting notes if we want, or if you guys want to say some more first.
Let me try. How much was this bottle, by the way? I don't think you said that.
Well, we'll definitely get into that. The bottle is $47.
Okay.
So I'm trying to narrow out that like the little bit of bitterness that I get from it. And I'm just trying to like do the whiskey a service and the listeners to make like so that they understand what I'm saying, that it's not bad. It's just a hint of a bitterness to me. And that time I kept it in my mouth for probably a full 20 or 30 seconds. And I did get some sweetness to it.
Like a spot? Are you talking about like it's peppery, or are you talking about
No, it's like the skin of a vegetable that I can't figure out which one yet. That when I taste it, I get just a touch of bitterness.
They're saying on their tasting notes, I said baklava already, which is what they mentioned kind of later, but some of the first ones they say are brandied cherries, vanilla bean, coconut cookies, caramel. Here's two that I think you might agree with: nutmeg, custard tart, baklava, and then milk chocolate.
So I think I've got it. And it's when you said the tart is actually, it popped into my brain. It's actually like, if you, to me, it's like the zest of an orange without the orange flavor itself. So again, it's not like bitter. It's it's sharp on your tongue. Not necessarily in a bad way, but certainly in a weak way, very weak way. And again, that's not a bad thing, but based on that nose, I really expected it to be a very decadent whiskey. But that nose is a killer.
It's a killer nose. And yeah, and like you said, it's not that it's not the best whiskey I've ever had. It's certainly not the worst. You know, it's a good whiskey. You just hope what that nose was offering would translate to the palate. And for me, you know, you get some of those things, but as soon as I tried it, I didn't think it would be that light. I didn't think, and even at 92, it's not the lowest proof, but I didn't even really get a hug or any kind of kick.
Oh, see, I get a nice hug on the finish. I get a nice hug on the finish.
I could just drink this, and it doesn't burn, for me at least. No,
but it gives me some warmth in my chest. It gives me a little snuggle.
I think we're talking about two different things: the hug and a burn. There's no burn to this at all.
No,
but there's a warmth to it that we're talking about.
I guess, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
And I got to say that it actually has a drier finish after. Like, I haven't had a sip in probably 4 or 5 minutes. It's got a dry, like my tongue is dry at this point. And that's not a good or a bad thing, but it's an observation that it's got a drier finish than I would have expected as well.
That's great qualitative analysis, Dan.
Thank you. I do my best.
You know, one thing I wanted to mention also is that they tout it being kosher. So I think maybe an interesting comparison could be this and Buffalo Trace Kosher.
Mm-hmm. I do have some kosher wheated still.
I'd be curious what you thought side by side. Obviously, we wouldn't be in a situation where we were doing a blind, but I think it could make an interesting blind for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the challenge with that is that Buffalo Trace Kosher wheat is stupid hard to get. So
right. But this is the reason why you do it. It's you have this one that's stupid hard to get. You have this one you can freely, anyone can, if you're listening to this right now, you can go to the MiddleWestSpirits.com website and you can purchase this on their website. You can have this sent to you, provided you're not in a restricted location for them to send to you. You can just buy this if you want one.
And speaking of kosher wheat and kosher rye and the Buffalo Trace Kosher line, those will, like the 2020 versions of those, will be coming out in the next month and a half, just after Easter or Passover, whichever you refer to it as. That's when those will start showing up on shelves, which I find it weird that they don't release it during. I don't know anything about religion, so so maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like Christ rising again.
Is that what it is?
Is that the logic? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, what do you say we go ahead and rate this?
Let's do it.
I'll go. I'm gonna go with a 6.2. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 6.2. I would actually go with a 5.7, but the nose gets it some bonus points there. I don't think you said it was $47. At $47, I'm passing on it.
Just curious, would you buy Buffalo Trace Kosher at MSRP?
Yes,
You would?
I would. I haven't had Buffalo Trace Kosher since we had it on the show though. So like it's just been sitting there. I haven't had even a single pour of it since then. Yeah, so like this being a weeded whiskey, it wasn't what I expected. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Based on the nose, it certainly was not what I expected. Again, not necessarily a bad thing. But no matter how great a nose is, like the priorities for me are easily palate is most important. Finish is second, nose is third. And it's got a subpar palate. It's got a fairly good finish and a fantastic nose. So it's hard for me to like get it into like a higher rating, if you will, because the most important thing to me is palate, and it just it misses on the palate. So there you go, 6.2. And I would not pay $47 for it. I might pay 30 for it. 35 considering the craft distillery price,
Right. I was going to give it a 6.2 as well. So I largely all the same things you said. I think that with Jim Beam White Label being our 5.0, I think that this is still a step up from that, and I think that there's a lot to like about it. It is, it is light on the palate, but I think if you're just getting into bourbon, I think it could be an interesting one to pick up. It is $47. I don't think it's priced too badly though. I don't think it's egregious, but like I could see paying it and not like regretting it at least once. But this to me, the whole experience really screams like, just like with Penelope, it's like I'd be really interested in trying something else that they offer. I'd be really interested in trying one of their cask strengths or something like that, just to see exactly what comes out at that point, because it just does feel a little bit light, and ultimately you're left feeling like what we talk about all the time when we have something 90 proof, it seems like, which is like, wow, this tells you how good Michter's is at what they do, that they're the same proof point, but they're able to get way different stuff out of the palate. Middle West is doing a lot right here in terms of getting a lot of stuff out of the overall drinking experience still being really good, but just that most important point, like you said, Dan, still is pretty lacking on the back end. So yeah, 6.2 for me.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said 100%. It's definitely light. That nose, you're expecting it to be awesome. That color is that amber copper color that looks beautiful when you pour it out of the glass. I don't know how new that distillery is. I feel like if you give them 5-10 years, they might be making some really good stuff. I don't know if they're kind of in the infancy, but I'm going to go a 6.5, a little bit higher than you guys. I did love the nose. It was a great nose. And I did really like that clove flavor. For whatever reason, just brings me back to when I was younger. I feel like you said, Stephen, like what Michter's does at that proof compared to what this proof is, it's 6% more, but it's, way less complex. And for a distillery to do that like Michter's, and I know, they've had a long time distilling, and that's why, I'm giving these guys the benefit of the doubt. But
I'll say real quick, Ryan,
if you're going to charge someone $50, then I feel like you should be offering just a little bit more than what's in the bottle.
I was just going to let you know that it says they were founded in 2008, but have been like basically in production since 2010.
Okay. So they are relatively newer. Or right at the beginning of the boom, so to speak. So I'm sure they've seen all the trends and everything like that. So, whatever comes out in the next 5 to 10 years might be really solid if they're aging stuff longer. Because obviously it's aged not, 3 years is not a long time. And if they would have
For
just
weeded especially.
Yeah, if they would have just waited a little bit longer, I feel like they could have gotten just so much more out of that bottle. Not to say that it's bad, because it's not. And I think this is a great introductory level bourbon for people. It doesn't really scare you away. It doesn't necessarily like bring you in, like a Michter's might, but it doesn't scare you away either. And it tastes better than, those 5.0s that we talk about a lot. But for $50, I would drink that mellow corn behind Dan, buy 3 of those before one of these.
Same. But one thing I really want to strongly agree with Steven on is that I am interested in tasting other Middle West offerings, right? Like first of all, a 6.2 is not a bad score for us. 6.2 on a lot of other podcasts or blogs is a terrible score. For us, the 6.2 is that's mediocre, really, is really where it ends up being. But I would absolutely enjoy trying other Middle West products. Would I buy this one? No, I would not buy this one.
Another bourbon show.